Kia ora, and welcome to Metamorphosis, Initiations, Thresholds, and the Alchemy of Becoming. I'm Kathleen, and I'm here alongside my dear and beautiful co-creator and collaborator, Vive. Welcome, Vive.
Thanks, Kathleen. Hi, everyone.
We are devoted to reclaiming the sacred ways of meeting change, rooted in the wisdoms of our bodies, ancestors, the universe, and our Mama Earth. We're curious about what becomes possible when we stay present to the in between long enough for new patterns, meanings, and futures to emerge. Today, Vive is our wonderful standing stone as we dive into the richness and just magic of this conversation with my dear sister, Anna Reidenbach. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's a delight.
It's a delight for us. Anna is a creative impact coach, creativity engineer, and visionary thought leader. When you enter Anna's world, the creative energy that was stuck behind the shadow gets released. You send the offer you've been afraid to launch. You write from a place of genuine expression. You put out that magnetic talk, and the impact you've always known was possible begins to match what's glittering inside you. With a master's degree in clinical and somatic psychology and Latino mental health, and deep training in transformational leadership, coaching, and shadow work, Anna blends strategy and stardust to help you clear your blocks, elevate into your full magic, and create from that place of pure genius so you can make a breathtaking impact and receive the energy of abundance in return. This is work Anna holds deeply in her heart. Well before she was a coach, Anna navigated more than 2 decades of clinical depression. Her healing journey took her from California to Spain, where somatic psychology taught her the power of joy, the magic of her body, and the freedom that comes from trusting your unique gifts. There, she claimed her own story, including growing up with a transgendered parent whose transformation showed her firsthand what becomes possible when we allow ourselves to become more fully who we are. And now she brings these same teachings to hundreds of coaches, healers, creatives, and leaders worldwide, helping them become known for their unique voice so they can change the world. And Anna has been pivotal in my journey. So, just so deeply honored to share, especially this juicy title with you all, which is Becoming the Sacred CEO of Your Unique Magic. So, and I know you're going to share your exact framework at the end for becoming a sacred CEO of your unique magic. But since this has to do with so much with transformation, our beautiful summit, metamorphosis, transformation, what is the definition of transformation for you?
Mm, Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathleen and Vive, for this beautiful experience. For me, transformation is really the process of becoming more of ourselves. So we have these bright, glowing, glittering gifts that we are bestowed to use in this lifetime. And it's really clearing away what is not needed and using that energy to catapult us into who we're really meant to become in this lifetime. So that's how I like to think about transformation. And it sometimes is these big moments, but sometimes it's actually these small daily habits or practices that help us anchor in the identity of who we're meant to be in this lifetime. And if you feel open to it, I would love to open here with a little guided practice to experience this. Yes, okay. Okay. So here's like a mini transformation we can all go through together. So just beginning with and I'm just going to presence this so that it's not it's not in my mind. I'm going through a little transformation here too. I'm getting over a cold, so if I just need to cough for a moment, we're all just allowing ourselves to be fully ourselves and present here, and I'm just presencing that as I get my transformational voice going. Okay, amazing. All right, so if you'd like to, you can close your eyes or however feels good for you. And maybe just begin to feel your feet on the earth. You can pick up all 10 of your toes, just wiggle them, maybe placing them back down, just finding yourself here in space. Maybe you take a nice deep breath into your body. And maybe you just begin to notice the version of you that is here, that is present right now. Because this version of you is the most powerful version of you. He, she, they are the ones who can affect change because they're the ones who are here. So just noticing, maybe you take another breath into your body, and maybe you just notice how you're feeling right now. Maybe you're feeling excited or joyful about the presentation. Maybe there's some sadness or some anger about world events or anything in your life. Just noticing what you're feeling. And then maybe from there, you begin to notice what this feeling needs. What do you need right now? If you have been sitting all day, maybe you actually want to listen to this standing up. Maybe you need to stand up. Maybe there's an urge to lay down. Maybe you want to give yourself a little hug or a wiggle or a shake. Maybe you want to say something kind to yourself. Maybe you want to pause the recording and take more time with what you need. So really allowing yourself to give yourself what you, yes, yes, what you need right now. Yes. And then maybe, and you're welcome to have your eyes still closed, you're welcome to have them open. Maybe you begin to notice what you desire with your feelings, with your needs. What is the desire right now? And letting that drop in, almost like there's a shower of light above your head. You can just breathe that in and feeling your deepest dreams, your deepest desires. And then maybe you just notice if anything changed for you, if you feel more open, if you feel more contracted, what actually transformed as you noticed the version of you who is here. And what does that say about you? This is your identity. Ah, I'm someone who can drop in. I'm someone who can listen to my intuition. I'm someone who can love myself. I'm someone who can hold my power, my emotional response. And that's a little mini moment of transformation that we can give ourselves in our day to anchor in the identity of who we are and our power.
Please may I share what I most deeply desire, what came through, and then I'll pass it over to Viv. Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful and grounding, and I feel that transformation. And what comes through for my desire is for metamorphosis to ripple out and just wrap everyone in cocoons of love. Because I feel that is what the world needs right now, to be wrapped in cocoons of love and nourished in that space so that we can transform and take the steps that are needed to wrap the entire world, the entire universe in this love. And that was so powerful, Anna, that you just held that space for that desire to come through.
Thank you.
Mm. Yeah, and I was sort of surprised because I opened my eyes and I was like, huh, I feel like alert and more awake. I mean, I should have been more alert before, but it's something just, I was just noticing I was doing some writing before we jumped on the call, and it was like thinking about what it is to transform, like, which was to shift from one form to another. And I really felt in that, like, just such a short space of time, like this alertness come in. And I think that is kind of like so beautiful in its simple miraculousness. So thanks, Anna. That is such a great demonstration of how like just basic it can be to bring in the transformation. It doesn't have to be this really big thing, this big deal, this long period of time that we're committing to create the change.
Mhm. I love that, right? Transform. We're in one form. and we can honor it and notice it and honor the version of us that is here. And I always notice that too, Viv, that the world gets kind of brighter when I do this. I'm like, oh, I can like see more. Um, and it's so powerful. And this is actually what our identity is made up of. It's actually all of these small moments. We think of it as like this big, identity shift, but it's like, who are we actually being in this moment? And then who are we being in the next moment and the next moment? And that is who we are essentially in our lives. So thank you for that reflection.
Yes, and just before I go on to the next question, and I just loved a present for everyone that Viva's been up since about 2 a.m. this morning. So that is incredible transformation, Anna, that you were just able to bring this level of alertness in when it's so early cocooning hours for Viv. So utter magic, real life magic, people. So you have a lot of different training, Anna, in transformational work. What do you sense is missing when we talk about transformation?
Yeah, so that's one of them, right? These small little micro moments of transformation. Another one is so the kind of universal symbol of transformation, right, is the butterfly, which I love, right? Love the butterfly. And that transformation can feel kind of sexy. Like I know it's not sexy when we go through it, like turning our body to mush and all of the things, but the way we talk about it, right? We're in the chrysalis, we're in the darkness, right? Then we have the imaginal cell. Then like our wings need to push against the chrysalis, and if we don't have that struggle, they're not strong enough to fly. Like all of these things are so deep and kind of sexy to talk about. What we often miss is how much effing milkweed that caterpillar needed to eat so that its body could actually withstand the transformation. And so, what I find a lot that is missing in transformation, there's two things. This is one of them, but it's our ability to resource the nervous system, to eat milkweed, to let ourselves like be the caterpillar getting strong. And when I was training in somatic therapies, a lot of traditional ones, if we were doing deep trauma work, the first whole year would actually just be resourcing. Because if someone can stay present, if someone can have their power online, then trauma work, we can work with that. And I think it's true for any kind of transformation. Like the caterpillar knows what it's supposed to do to become the butterfly. It needs its resources. And so if we could give the world more resources, imagine what people could find inside of them. So that's one. Mhm.
And this is so juicy because we haven't spoken about this yet in this summit, but it's such a pivotal point is we can't become who we're here to be and flourish and thrive of if our cup is empty, if we don't have that nourishment, those resources like you spoke of from the milkweed, um, yeah, that nutrition. If we don't have that, and that nutrition that comes in spiritual nutrition, not just as delicious Kai food to nourish our bodies. And Vive, I know you're nodding, so you have something to add too.
Oh yeah, I'm just like, yes. Yes, the resourcing. I think that is such a essential point that you're making. And that I only came into understanding of that through my own somatic training, that the resourcing is the most essential support to have in order to work with the things that bring friction and activation and just how I'm kind of curious to know, Anna, because I think part of one, it is to understand what is resourcing for each individual, for each unique individual. And then two, it's to be able to receive the resourcing. And I
Mhm.
wonder about what experience you've had working with people around supporting them to really like notice what is a resource and then receive that resource and be able to digest and metabolize it in order to become the butterfly.
That is a beautiful question. I do have a practice I love doing around using joy as a resource, but one that we don't often use is actually physical resources. So, you can actually put pillows, like if you like so a lot of times our body is not very resourceful. Like, I'm sitting in this chair, but there's something behind me, but I'm not really leaning in. I'm not really supported. And so if we add pillows, if we add blankets, if we really allow ourselves to lay down, a lot of the early coaching work I actually did it off camera, and I had people really be resourced in their body. They could move, they could do what they needed to do so that their body felt either supported or free. And it really helps us take in the nourishment, like you said, because a lot of time, like when we have that physical support around us, it does really help. And then I believe it's these small, little, tiny practices that help us receive the nourishment, even like the one that we did at the beginning. And I'm happy to talk about the joy one as well.
Mm. My goodness, like the idea of being cocooned essentially by pillows and rugs, what and that being the resource to help us kind of come into possibility and emergence and change is like, yes, please. I'd like that.
And the permission to do that, I think, is so liberating. I received an invite to go out to a breathwork and sauna, and I was like, that sounds utterly breathtaking. But actually, and I replied this, I just want a cocoon right now. And so it's that permission to know when it's time to be resourcing yourself and time to fly. And so with that, what is the second tool, Anna?
Yeah, so it's this resourcing in the body, I guess would be how I would say the first tool. And just so it's like I'll just finish that thought of noticing how things feel in the body. Like, oh, that moment was good. And here's how I know it feels good in my body. That's how we can begin to take in the nourishment. So resourcing the body is number one. The second one is what you guys are doing, which is co-creation, like the power of community. So Dr. Dan Siegel talks about interpersonal neurobiology, and he talks about that in our cave people ancestry. So if you had a threat and you were alone, you would make a different choice
Mm.
than if you had a threat and there were people around you. So biologically, we actually become a different version of ourselves when we are supported, right? So if we are getting over a visibility block, having people come to our events, like not only is kind of like nice, but it's actually allowing us to get into a different part of our nervous system. We are able to access more power when there are people around us. And also with mirror neurons, right? If you're being held by a coach or a guide who is holding their own power and you're going through something challenging, right? Them holding their power, like you are able to pattern after the person that is holding you. And so we kind of forget that as a resource, like how, like this is why guides, why coaching, why group experiences are so powerful.
Mm. I'm just humming away here, and Bev and I are like you're speaking our language because being co-creating this summit with Bev and putting our crowns on before we hop on the call is so we feel so resourced and in our power and to be able to come and just be in our joy, which we'll get to soon with you, Anna, be in our joy as we speak with these incredible, extraordinary humans and visionaries. And we get to be here in this co-creative field, and you can feel it. Like I can feel it with my hands, the field that is created through this resourcing of co-creation. And it's just my favorite thing in the whole world. Like, hands down.
And it's biological. Like we can kind of be like, oh, why do I need other people? Or does that make me weak or that? But it's like literally like wired into our biology. And so we're just utilizing our natural biology to help us be more of ourselves, which I think is kind of cool.
Yes, I'll pass it on to Vive, but yes, the innate intelligence of our bodies to know that. Like it's so wise. It's so wise. And this is just so powerful that you actually bring the science to it, Anna. So thank you.
Mm. Yeah, I loved hearing that. I loved hearing the science of that. And it makes me think, Anna, about hopefully I don't get myself in hot water when I say this, but the kind of fixation of boundaries and self-protection and what can kind of happen where we lose out on that group resonance and attunement or the one-to-one with the mirroring and the mirror neurons, which we, like you said, biologically need. Like, yes, limits and boundaries are important, but not to the extent that we aren't open to that important field that you're talking about. It's like I wondered if that sparks anything for you because it feels so important, almost as a practice of receiving that type of nourishment that you're talking about.
Mhm. Yeah, I heard something recently which I loved, which is boundaries. We think about them wrong. It is actually, what does it mean to be an exquisite relationship with me? What do I need and desire from this person to be able to be an exquisite relationship with me? So we can think about it as a pushing away or a limit, but I really like that way of thinking about it more because I think it allows us to have both.
Mm.
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 Ah, beautiful. And I love the word exquisite. It's exquisite. So how does joy support transformation, Anna? And I know you have a personal story to share around this.
Yeah, so joy is one of my absolute favorite resources. I have a couple quick quotes. I forgot to ask you guys, is it okay if I share slides really quick? Okay, I'm gonna pull them up. Um,
It just
and
requires me to make sure that you can.
and interestingly, my little thing stopped working, so we're just gonna dance with technology just for a moment. I'm gonna pull it up in a different way. Think we'll dance with, we're dancing with technology here. So we have some joy with technology. Okay.
Well, I know
All right.
in another part of your life you have been a dance instructor as well, Anna.
Yes. Yes. I was a dance instructor. So now I get to dance with technology. I am not a technology instructor though. But we do dance. We do dance. Okay. All right. Share here.
And I've just
Um,
made you a co-host, Anna, so hopefully this sharing dance.
Works. Okay. Amazing. Thank you all for dancing with me so we can play with this. So joy is one of my favorite resources. By the way, Kathleen made these beautiful pictures, these beautiful slides, which give me so much joy. So as someone who had a lot of depression in my life, finding joy as a resource was life-changing. And what I find is it helps us find our purpose. When we know what lights us up inside, we know the gifts that we want to give to this world. This is one of my favorite quotes. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And why I think this is so powerful is Howard Thurman was a civil rights leader, right? And to be able to be like, to be standing in the times that we are in and be like, and we all have gifts, and the ones that make us come alive are the ones that are going to change the world. There's so much power in that. So, joy is this beautiful resource just for deliciousness. It helps us hold what as you said, be what brings us friction, right? What's hard. And it just makes life more alive and it helps us with our gifts. This is what's interesting to me, though. Not only does joy lead us to our purpose, what lights us up, but at its core is a sense of wonder. And underneath that is really approval, which I think is one of Kathleen's superpowers to just be an approval of everything. And this is one of the sacred keys to the universe. Okay. And I'm going to give you a few quotes from Carolyn Elliott, who had that idea of the exquisite relationship boundaries. That came from her. Um, so when we can hold all all of our emotions with approval, right? Life changes for us. So, turn on is a matter of deep approval, allowing less resistance to the positive creative current that's always attempting to move through you into manifestation. It's giving ourselves permission to fully feel the raw sensation of the emotions present and meet it with innocence rather than cynical judgment and stories about what these emotional sensations mean. So when we have joy, when we have approval, we can hold a deeper experience of life. So we can have this aesthetic, imaginative, artistic approach to life and feeling. So instead of like, sadness, this sucks, we can be like, a deep, heavy feeling of sadness. How exquisite, right? Like, oh, I like sad movies. They actually bring me joy. Hmm, let me let me feel into this. What is the texture? What is the sound? It's rather spongy. And when I pay close attention, I notice in my heart it sounds like a slow xylophone melody playing in a rainy alley. And just notice how there's so much joy and approval in even holding what's hard. Or if it's anger, if I let myself feel the passion of it, of what we're experiencing in the world right now, I I allow it, I can then find motivation to change something, right? When we can really approve of all of our emotions, it really adds a different layer to life. And right, instead of thinking, oh, this sucks, um, life is horrible, I'm horrible. We don't want to think that way. We want to open. And this is my favorite quote. You are casting spells at every single moment. Your words, your actions, the looks you give yourself in the mirror and the looks you give to other people, your clothes, your perfume, your songs, your smiles, your laughter, your reactivity and resentment, all spells. And so when we hold this layer of approval, we are casting different spells. We walk through life in a different way. Opportunities come into us in different ways. So that that I really think is how joy can support us really deeply as a resource, even more deeply than I thought, because it can help us hold what we are not liking as much in a different way so that we are casting magical spells and bringing in more light towards ourselves and towards this world.
Oh, that was just exquisite. And yeah, I feel like apathy and inertia are two of the greatest travesties in our world. And what you're showing us about joy is we actually have this fuel, and it doesn't necessarily have to start with joy. It can start with anger or sadness or any of these feelings, but we actually have this resource like the milkweed right inside of us. Yeah.
Mhm. And to hold it with approval, right? To not push it away, like how we did at the beginning of the
Mm.
time today. We just welcomed, we let it be here. We let our emotions tell us what they needed. That's a much different way than how we normally are with things. So if we can just be in wonder, in joy, in glimmer, in approval
Mm.
of the spectrum of our human experience, it just opens things in a new way.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah, it makes me think, Anna, of Michael Mead did a podcast recently and he was speaking to emotion and he was talking about emotion, that many of the things in psychology and in the world at the moment that help people to kind of manage big feelings or emotion can also be the thing that stops them from experiencing the emotion. And hearing you speak about joy as a resource, it makes me think about how, like you said, the joy actually gives us the capacity for that emotion to come in and to move us in the direction that it wants to go, rather than rather than it not getting to be expressed in some way, or to bring the movement in, like you were saying, with, yeah, the physicality of things. And,
Mm.
without needing to pin anything down or make necessarily even make meaning of that, but just to be moved. That, like Kathleen was saying about apathy being sort of such a wounding of the world at the moment, to be able to be moved, but we can't be moved if we don't have that resource of joy. So I think that's such an important point that you're making.
Yeah, I love that. And I like, right, emotion, energy in motion, right? And so we want to move it, like you're saying, and I'm seeing the paintings behind you, right? And there's motion in them, right? And so when we get stuck, it feels bad, but if we hold it and um, allow it, it doesn't always feel good. And yet I've had quite a few challenging years recently, and I found this immense joy in like feeling like, wow, I can be alive in this. Wow, my life is happening right now. What can I still appreciate about this moment that is happening? And there just is this exquisiteness and this depth and this becoming in being able to meet life in that way.
Mm. And I know you have a deeper journey, but would you like to share that with us, Anna?
Yeah, we're gonna see we're gonna see if my voice we're gonna see if my voice holds up for this one. Um, I'm gonna cough really quick and then I will be back with you.
Mm.
Yes, so this is one of my deepest stories here, and it begins with joy. Well, it doesn't begin with joy, but where we're entering into the story begins with joy. Um, so I suffered a lot from clinical depression. I was on medication, all of the things, and at some point in my late 20s, I was like, I can't. I'm looking for my purpose everywhere. I can't find my purpose. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do on this earth. I know I want to make a difference. But F it, like, I have no idea what that is. What do I actually want? What do I actually desire? And I wanted selfishly to go live in a Spanish speaking country. I just wanted it for me, not for any reason, not for any purpose. Like, I just wanted it. And I found a way to move to Spain. And I moved to Spain when I was 30, and it was magical. And it it taught me so much about joy. I worked with a somatic psychologist who really taught me. He brought me to my purpose. I was like, oh, that's the thing I'm supposed to be doing. He brought me into awareness about other dimensions, other realms. He did a lot of spiritual work as well. And so just following my own joy, just because it brought me pleasure, was actually what led me to find the thing that I was supposed to do on this earth. And there's a little bit more to it that I would love to share, but I'll just pause there for a moment.
Oh, you could hear me humming away. And what came through was the alchemy of becoming, like that your journey really has been one of alchemizing these really serious things that have been with you in your life. But that joy, that resourcing, that tapping into what you desired, and that was moving to Spain, and the catalyst that this has gone on to bring you to this very moment in time. It's really just such a beautiful living example of metamorphosis for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And and so what was so interesting about that time in Spain is about halfway through my time there, I still remember I was living in Cadiz, which is this beautiful city in the south. I remember the exact way that the blinds looked because I woke up one evening and I could see these little like spots of light through the window. And I realized I had never decided to be alive. I had decided once upon a time to not take my own life, but I had never decided to actually be alive. And so what had happened is 15 years before then, I had been admitted into a psychiatric hospital for 3 days. It's what happens when you want to leave the earth, and they want to make sure that you're not going to harm yourself. And so I was there in that hospital, and my mom and my sister came. They drove, I don't know what it was, like 12 hours or something to come see me. I was living in a different state. And my sister was 12, I was 18. And I looked into her beautiful hazel eyes, like just glittering with green. And I was like, I cannot do this to her, right? I will not leave this earth by my own hand. I will not do it. I will take the medication they're giving me. I will, I'll figure out how to stay. But I hadn't decided to live. And it wasn't until 15 years later when I was like, oh my God, okay,
Mm.
how do I find my own aliveness, right? What does that actually look like for me? And that moment of insight was what led me to be like, okay, I need to find someone to help me. Okay, now I know this. Now what do I do? Um, and it was profound, and it was this deep transformational journey. And I ended up being able to get off medication, and it was beautiful for me. What was really interesting though is in that moment in the hospital, a couple of things happened. One, I was like, oh, if I'm really myself in the world, it might be more than 3 days next time. And so it really did tap down my magic a lot. It took me, a while to be like, okay, no, actually, I'm not crazy. This world that we have built is insane. And I would like to be myself and change it, but it took me a while to get there. But what really was interesting is the two people that I connected with most in the hospital, like led me to my purpose. And I didn't know that at the time. It was looking back, right? But there was this man named Jim, and he was a logger. So he was, cutting down trees, and we were in this place with these beautiful old growth forests, and there was, people chaining themselves to the trees, and he was losing his job. Rightly so, right? Like we need the old growth forest. And yet it was something that his family had done for generations, and it had something he could do with his hands, something that allowed him to have a living on this earth and feel productive. And I was 18, and I was like, well, I think he's depressed because he needs a purpose. Like, I think he needs dignity and a purpose. And instead, it was like, no, he's crazy. And I was like, okay, but I'm almost positive. Like, he just kind of needs a purpose. And then there was this other beautiful woman, and she heard angels. And I was like, well, what if there are other dimensions? Like, I don't know. What if there are, other ways of being? And I was like, nope, she's crazy. And I understand we don't want people, jumping out of windows and, thinking they can fly, and like it's a balance. And I get that. And it was just so sad to me because I was like, what would happen if you gave her paints, or like
Mm.
allowed her to connect with these dimensions she's touching. And so, ironically, in my work now, what I help people do is find their purpose with dignity, right? Receive an abundance for their unique gifts. And I work with a lot of people who work in multidimensional realms, and I help them, be able to take their magic and put it into the 3D realm. And so, I can hold this story as it was horrible. I was locked up. I was given medication. I was on, medication for like almost 2 decades. It was, all the things, which is one way to look at it. Or I could be like, huh, well, isn't that interesting that life gave me my purpose so young? Isn't that interesting that life gave me another teacher who helped me find that? Isn't that interesting that I was able to find the path? And I think we really get to decide who we are on the other side of our story, and how we want to use that for the world that we're creating.
Mm. Just holding the potency of that journey, story, and the alchemy of becoming, Anna. It's incredible. And I'm going to pass it over to you, Vive.
Mm. The word reparative comes in. Like that is what I felt and heard as I listened to your story. And I wanted to just go back to that, something that I think perhaps I just want to bring attention to it is that you'd made this choice to move to Spain and you were really willing to be in the not knowing, but you just knew like there was a part of it that was a not knowing, like there wasn't a clear, like I'm doing this for this reason, which I think is such a huge part of alchemy and transformation and thresholds and initiation. And you also um, took the risk anyway, uh, and that there is a level of kind of trust and risk being present at the same time in order to go on this journey that you've demonstrated in your story. Yeah.
I love that trust and risk. And I would say that joy is a resource for both of those things because I loved speaking Spanish. It was like the one place where I felt happy. And I was like, well, I want to, like, I don't get to feel happy in my life very much. So how could I
Mm.
somehow increase this for myself? And that was what gave, because it's not, as someone who was kind of shy and having issues with depression, it wasn't easy, right, to take that risk and to have that trust. But there was something of like, but it makes me happy, and I'm like, so I'm gonna effing do it anyway. Um,
And it was like a guiding, like I was going to say light, but it's more like a breadcrumb. It's like this tiny, I think you used the word glimmer, and you really just felt into that that glimmer. And that can be what it's like on this journey is like, oh, I kind of noticed that out the side of my eye, and I know that felt good. So I'm going to follow it. Yeah. Thanks, Anna. It's just incredible. What an incredible story.
And that you didn't just decide and then you got on a plane the next day. Like it took these steps. You had to resource yourself to take these steps to get there. But it's like the whole universe orchestrated this you getting there because you ch made the choice to follow the joy. And that is super powerful, and not always easy. But
Yeah, not e I mean, to get my first visa, I got a student visa and I dropped out of high school, which is America where we go until the United States where we go until we're, 18 years old. So I had to like go back to school, something that was really hard for me and to like it was hard for my brain at the time. And but I was like, I want this thing and this is the way that I can do it. And so it allowed me to, and I got to take a lot of classes in Spanish. I did a Spanish major, so that was, joyful in a lot of ways and also very hard. But it's like it can, when we know what we desire and we want, and we feel that glimmer and we feel that sparkle and we feel that hope, it can give us this power to do things that we just didn't think were possible. Hmm.
Mhm. I'm going to get to the next question, but this just goes back to what I spoke about apathy and inertia. And with inertia, it can feel like you have this whole mountain, and so you can't, like, how do you get up the mountain? But it's just taking those little steps, like you said, following those breadcrumbs. It's one step at a time, and that momentum, and all of a sudden you can move mountains. But let's just come back full circle to the title of this wonderful talk today. And so, how do you become a sacred CEO of your magic?
Yes. So to me, this means that we are the ones who are in charge. We are the ones who have the decision to bring our gifts to their brightest potential. Just like a CEO is in charge, right, of bringing that company, that organization to its highest potential, we are given these gorgeous gifts in our lifetime, and it's actually us who get to make the choices and the decisions for whether they fully sparkle into the world. And so it's a process of first being resourced. So we're always resourced. And then from there, we want to go into the CEO process. So we want to clear what is blocking our genius, what's blocking our brilliance, what's blocking our magic. There's a lot of energy when we clear it. And so then we can put that towards elevating the skills and capacities, right? We might have this innate magic, but maybe uh, we need speaking skills or visibility skills or ways to train our magic. So, how do we elevate our magic? And then finally, how do we operate from that place, right? Just how we did at the beginning. How do we make those daily choices that help us practice being in that state of magic? So, we want to clear, elevate, and then operate from. So, that's the level one of the framework. And then I work with a lot of creatives. So if we want to take it a little bit further, then we can take, so we're at this place where we're really accessing our magic. We can take that and then we can create from that place. We can really create our talk, our program, our course, our book, whatever it is, right? From that place of magic. Then again, we want to elevate it, right? We want to make sure that it's meeting the needs of this time, that it's actually creating real transformation, that it's serving in the way that our heart desires it to serve. So we elevate it again, and then we can offer that to the world, have people really hear it, receive it, be touched by it, and we can change the effing world with our magic. And that is what this process is all about.
Oh, incredible. And a reclamation of sacred CEO because there's so many CEOs out there who receive all of the money and have all of this like pyramid of people underneath them who are creatives and visionaries and like do have all this potential and magic, but they're exhausted because they're feeding the CEO at the top of the freaking pyramid. So this is such a reclamation. And I'm going to pass it over to you, V, before we get into Anna's beautiful free gift.
Yeah. I think it's such an important message, Anna, that joy and resonance with joy is what brings us into like awareness and understanding of what brings us to life, what animates us, what our gifts are, and that it's not frivolous in any way because when we understand what our gifts are, we're able to weave that back into culture, into the world. And I think what we all know is that we need more of that in the world right now. So thank you for doing the work that you do and
Yeah.
with the message of joy as a resource in transformation.
I am going to read you Anna's beautiful gift. I have, like I said at the beginning, I would literally not be sitting here without Anna taking me through these processes of like resourcing myself and tapping into my magic and transforming my wounds around voice and visibility. So, Anna, it's a free gift. Become the CEO of your unique magic personalized assessment, and you'll be able to find this in Anna's beautiful speaker page. And the short assessment is your first step to becoming the sacred CEO of your unique magic. For a series of powerful questions, you'll get clear on what's blocking your genius, how to elevate into your full magic, and what becomes possible when you create from that place. Your answers will be beautifully organized into a personalized PDF so you can see exactly where you are on your adventure and feel liberated to take the next step into breathtaking impact, nourishing abundance, and creative freedom. Yes, yes, yes. And yeah, really, like it says in your bio, but you really help ground this our stardust in to service into like tangible steps. And I'm so grateful to you, Anna.
Mm. Thank you so much. Yeah, this assessment is, I love making things. I love creating creating things so much. And this assessment is really one of my favorite things I've created in quite a while. So I hope that you enjoy it. You go through the questions and then they're kind of organized in a little bit of an unexpected way, and you get to hopefully have a little woo, insight or epiphany or sparkle there. And there's also an opportunity if you're resonating with it to book actually a free call with me as well. So that's in the gift, and you can check that out. So it's my honor and delight. And then also, I have a free joy course coming up in July with the amazing Kathleen. So we don't have all the dates and things for that yet, but if you sign up for the free gift, you will definitely get notified when that rolls around.
Well, I'm going to just pass it to you, Viv, to just close
Mhm.
us off.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, Anna, for the work that you do in the world and for orienting us to joy. Because, like I said before, I think now more than ever, there is so much going on in the world where it's easy to orient, and it is important to orient to what is going on. And in the same breath, orienting to joy is a resource, and using that as a navigational tool in transformation is just so essential. So, thank you for all of these incredible and beautiful insights, both obviously, that you've learnt, but that you've lived. And I think, when someone has really lived it, it has a certain impact to hear the story. So, thank you. And thank you, Kathleen, for being the incredible host today.
And thank you, Viv, for being our wonderful standing stone, to Anna for saying yes to joining us in Metamorphosis, and to our wonderful listeners and community of Metamorphosis. Mwah. Love you guys.